There is this idea in startup world that many founders fall for. The idea is so devastating. It's not just killing the business, but also spending enormous amount of money and time of employees, investors, and everyone around. In my almost 10 years of development practice, working in more than 5 different teams and shipping different MVPs for both mobile and web startups, I have seen this so many times that it's actually mind-blowing. So the idea is that you can take some part of already established human interaction in real life and make a software out of it. For example, the process of making a deal in property management, or the process of collaboration between interior designer and the client, or something in those domains, where this field requires so much human interaction and so many different processes that the idea of the startup itself is to just digitize this whole experience. The main problem here is that it contradicts with the actual idea of MVP when you ship a simple feature that solves someone's problem. And the danger is that this type of approach, even in 2026, can still invite a lot of early stage investors. Because it's kinda still very easy to convince people that this can be valid and this can work out. But in my experience, this type of ideas has never worked out, at least in the small startup teams. If you want to build a whole ecosystem from the get-go, and this is your MVP, you need an enterprise-sized team. You can't just hire 10 or 15 engineers and expect them to build a massive project that includes all the part of different processes that real life has. Imagine the mind of the founder of this type of projects. They think after they launch the product, they will invite people who already has established practices in this type of business, so they will move all of their communication and deal management and everything on a platform and will pay for that. It can be true, but you cannot prove or disprove it early on. It means that you need to spend enormous amount of time and money just to prove or disprove your hypothesis, which we all know is the silent killer of startups. You want to go fast and you want to validate. If your validation is successful, you can then iterate and build your complexity on top of existing working model for the existing audience that already is paying you money. For example, let's focus on property management platform I mentioned before. I've been working on it for around half a year doing senior user experience user interface design job. I obviously can't tell the name, but this story is the perfect example. The funny thing that personally for me as a designer, this type of projects are actually very fun. Because we designers, we like to design. We love designing new things. And in this kind of startups, you need to design a lot. And it's for sure a lot of fun for me, but definitely not for the business. Back then I didn't care that much just because I needed money and I was not ready to conceptualize my thought on how to overall make a startup successful. I was just doing my job. So the founder's idea was that this is obviously the huge market of real estate in the United States. And there are a lot of different types of people involved, and they collaborate in many different ways. So he wanted to bring them all to the platform and provide a seamless experience for everyone. So basically he wanted to build a system that includes the property listing, the messenger platform, the board with the status of the deal, the signing document capability, the group chat, the audits, and many more. So that's basically an ecosystem of many different modules that covers the whole process in this business field. From start where people discover the deal to finish when they actually sign it. By the way, after this project I realized, if your startup wants to have a chat, better not to even start. I think you kinda already can guess why this idea never succeeded. And we can come to this conclusion from many different directions. But now I just want to purely focus on basic principle of building a startup. At least from my experience and perspective, if you can't clearly define your idea in one simple feature and ship this MVP as fast as possible, this is not a startup. You probably want to build or even better join the big enterprise corporation. But in this project, the MVP was the whole system itself. So you cannot ship fast, validate, and then iterate on top of it. You need to first build the whole complexity, otherwise the people will not get the value you expect and want them to get. And this is exactly why this type of founder's mentality is so devastating and damaging to the business. You cannot test, you cannot check your hypothesis, you cannot validate. You need to invest in a huge ecosystem that no one is sure will work out. The ecosystem cannot be an MVP. If your idea is just to SaaS some part of life, this is not a valid business idea. Because in this type of systems, if any part of your whole platform is missing, you cannot launch. Imagine you need to build such a huge complex ecosystem with all these interconnected modules that probably needs to be interchangeable from the day one because requirements can change. You need a top-notch professionals. But many founders just don't know them, and many hiring agencies just work across the whole job market. You can't expect that the first 15 people you hire for the job are actually capable of building some level of architecture that will allow the project to go further. And if you put a constant time pressure on them, that's the recipe for disaster from the day one. And this typically leads funders into this vicious cycle of many years finding new investors, trying to feed this project so you can finally launch, even before this idea has been validated. Developers are changing, designers are changing, investors are coming and going, and everyone is spending time and money to build something that no one knows will succeed. Good for me as a designer. I mean, pay me money, I will design endlessly for you. That's what I thought back then. Because if we make a step back and think about anything in life, all the good things in life are happening gradually. You are achieving some good results, and you build on top of that. For example, in the gym, if you want to be strong and look strong, you need to progressively overload your body with exercises and volume across the time. Imagine you just come to the gym, it's actually hilarious, and you start doing all the exercises like right at once. You probably will just crush your body, and you will definitely not see any results. You need to start with something simple and foundational, and then grow on top of that. Now imagine doing this for several years, spending someone's money, expecting the team to finally ship something. But this something is so huge that no one understands how it works before it even launches. So we all need to focus on shipping the simple feature first, and only then, only after first users' feedback, moving forward. Or if people don't need it and don't like it, we can admit that we were wrong and abandon the project. And I'm kind of ashamed of myself now, but many times when I was listening to this type of founders, inside I was laughing. When they were explaining all this complexity of what they want to build, silently I was like, dude, you now don't have shit. And you want to build the whole freaking ecosystem, like good luck. And developers were basically quite quitting. But let's now think about from where this type of idea is generally coming from, that you can make something like that, and why investors fall for it. In my mind, it's coming from the early days when social media platforms were growing. We all remember this moment, this rapid growth, and it still stays in investors' mind that you can do something like that, where people do so many different things on your platform that this is the main value proposition. But these days has long gone, and we now live in completely different realities. Basically, for me now, it's a red flag in startup if they try to do something like that. It contradicts with the whole idea of MVP. And I will elaborate on it more in the future videos. But simplicity is the key to build a successful startup. If you can't clearly articulate what value you create in basically 30 seconds, you have probably lost already. You know, today the attention span is so slow, people can barely focus. You need to be precise and you need to be right on top in less than 30 seconds. This is the problem we're solving. Here you go. If it takes the whole freaking 5 minutes to explain what you are doing, because you keep counting things one by one, people losing attention, no one understands it, they move on. Bye and see you in the next.